And good evening. Welcome on this Wednesday, June 25th, 2025, World YouTube's Washington Report. We're going to talk about Daddy's trip to NATO. He's taking a trip over to NATO. Did you know that's the new nickname for President Trump is Daddy? At least that's according to the Secretary General of NATO. He referred to President Trump today as Daddy. A reporter asked President Trump about it. He said, well, at least he was affectionate about it. I think it's an affectionate term. So there you go. It's really odd to watch these world leaders embracing President Trump in his second term versus his first term. I don't know what's happened. Some of them treated him really well, others not so much. It seems like he's getting a much different response on the world stage than he did the first term. I don't know, that's my perception. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's ask Jim Paff with theconservativecaucus.org. Jim, welcome back to the broadcast.
Good to be with you.
So what do you make of the way President Trump's being received by world leaders? Do you think he's being taken maybe a little more seriously, treated with a little more respect than he was during his first term?
Well, yeah. I mean, these world leaders have put everybody in a bad place for a lot of years. They thought that they could get by with it in his first term, and you know, he was just that stupid guy that had these weird ideas, and you can forget it, and we're not going to pay attention to him. Well, he's winning. He's winning the debates. I mean, the ceasefire's holding between Iran and Israel, even though Israel's now lobbing bombs back into Gaza. But that's a different matter. I mean, listen, they know that Donald Trump commands a lot of respect because he does not flinch. He doesn't sit around and wonder what other people need to think of him before he takes proper action. He takes proper action. He just does the job, and it's working out. And even though a lot of people had some negatives about him, lobbing some bombs into Fordow in Iran, he did, and then he backed it off, and he told both parties to get their act straight, and now they got their act straight. What else are they going to do?
I don't know.
Ukraine's next, by the way, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but I'm just so glad not to have to talk about the war after 2 weeks. I'm not talking about it at all tonight on my on Brandon House Live. I'm not talking about it. I told Logan I have to talk about this war one more day. I think I'm going to scream. So,
but there's also no reason to.
That's exactly right. There's no reason to.
It's fixed.
Yep. So let's pray it stays that way. Let's pray it stays that way. All right. So here it is. Here's the video. Here we go.
I mean, we may do papers on it, Marco. Maybe we're going to do papers. I don't even know if you need them. They're not going to be fighting each other. They've had it. They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. You know, they fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes. Then it's easier to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language.
You have to use strong language. Every once in a while, you have to use a certain word.
I think you have to join the others.
And then Daddy has to jump in. Daddy, President Trump referring to his dropping the F-bomb yesterday. All right. So here we go. It came back up.
Thank you. Deborah Haynes from Sky News. Hello. The language that you have used when talking to Donald Trump has been notable because of its flattery. Today you called him Daddy. You sent a text message to him that was gushing with praise. Is this the way that you feel you have to act when doing business with the US president, through flattery and praise? Isn't it a bit demeaning, and doesn't it make you look weak?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a bit of a question of taste, but I think he's a good friend. And when he is doing stuff which is forcing us to, for example, when it comes to making more investments, would you ever think that this would be the result of this summit if he would not have been elected president? Do you really think that 7 or 8 countries who said, yeah, somewhere in the 2030s we might meet the 2%, we've now all decided in the last 4 or 5 months to get to 2%? So doesn't he deserve some praise? And when it comes to Iran, the fact that he took this decisive action, very targeted, to make sure that Iran would not be able to get its hands on a nuclear capability.
All right, this guy's got 2 things going for him right off the bat. He's got great hair, number 1. And number 2, he's got a nice announcing voice. I don't know where he's from, but he's got a nice voice from a perspective of radio. But anyway, I guess, this is the NATO Secretary General is who he is, actually.
Jens Stoltenberg. Yeah.
Oh, look at you. Look at you.
From Sweden, I believe. So,
okay, well, there you go. You would have to agree. He's got nice hair and a nice announcing voice.
Yeah, and hey, he's absolutely right. Listen, nothing triggers a person in the media than Donald Trump doing anything that works. So,
yes.
and it's also though just a bit breathtaking that he did receive such praise at the NATO meeting, because you do have a lot of leaders there in Europe who are really, frankly, jerks towards America often. They look down on America when we're really the bastion of freedom in the world, and they are not. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they know it. They are censoring their people. They're regulating the commerce in the European Union to death. And yet here we are, even with some of our negatives, doing much better and once again asserting ourselves with some moral authority on the world stage. It takes a combination of strength, of knowing what to do and doing it properly. I always talk about Bob Beal's definition of leadership. Leadership is knowing what to do next, knowing why that's important, and knowing how to bring appropriate resources to bear on the need at hand. Donald Trump fits that definition of leadership perfectly. He understands what context he's in, so he's not just throwing out things to do like most world leaders do to prove that they're doing something. He sees what actually needs to be done and truly knows how to put it in context and get the job done when it needs to be done. And I think it's why he's one of the greatest leaders that we've had in this country.
And here he is responding to being called daddy. Here we go.
Mark Rutte, the NATO chief, who is your friend, he called you daddy earlier. Do you regard your NATO allies as kind of children?
No, he likes me. I think he likes me. If he doesn't, I'll let you know. I'll come back and I'll hit him hard, okay? No? He did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy.
Mark Rutte.
That's hilarious.
It is funny.
The media and all the supposedly educated insiders in and around government, they don't know how to handle doing something, accomplishing something, because they never accomplish anything. They went into government, they went into media so that they could get power and authority, and when it's taken away from them, because they don't deserve it to begin with, they don't like it.
Let's see here. Let's see. I want to find Logan, if you can maybe help me. I want to find the clip. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. I found it. This, folks, is... Okay, I think all of us that follow President Trump have seen him do this a few times. And he probably does this more times off camera than he does on camera. I've been in the room with him at Mar-a-Lago when we were producing the interview with him. And this is what we saw. This very kind, sensitive guy that was actually picking up on your facial expressions and your body language. He's very good at picking up on people's facial expressions and body language, not just their words, okay? We've seen him do this a few times, but I saw it off camera when we were in that room with him for several minutes during the filming and after the filming, before the filming. Actually, we were with him twice that day. He came in, visited, went back out, came back in. And I hear others hear and see this same style. I think what you're about to see here, in my opinion, Jim, is the real Donald Trump when he's being very human and very much himself, versus sometimes when he's being the politician, the spokesperson, you know, the persona that you have to have as president. I think you're about to see in this clip what a lot of us have seen here and there. And it makes us realize a lot of things that are said about him aren't true. When it gets down to the brass tacks, he actually does pick up on people's pain. Watch this.
Seen before for a long time. Go ahead. Go ahead. White shirt. Oh, she's all excited.
Okay, so BBC News Ukrainian. I would
Where are
like
you
to
from?
ask you. I'm from Ukraine.
Oh.
So my question to you is whether or not the U.S. is ready to sell anti-air missile systems patriot to Ukraine. We know that Russia has been pounding Ukraine really heavily right now.
Are you living yourself now in Ukraine?
My husband is there.
Wow.
And
I can see you very, it's amazing.
And me with the kids, I'm in Warsaw actually, because he wanted me to be.
Is your husband a soldier? No?
He's
there now?
Yeah.
Wow. That's rough stuff, right? That's tough. And you're living here?
In Warsaw.
And you're a reporter?
I am.
Good. So let me just tell you, they do want to have the missiles, okay, as they call them, the Patriots. And we're going to see if we can make some available. They're very hard to get. We need them too. We were supplying them to Israel, and they're very effective, 100% effective. Hard to believe how effective. And they do want that more than any other thing, as you probably know. That's a very good question, and I wish you a lot of luck. I mean, I can see it's very upsetting to you. So say hello to your husband, okay? Thank you.
All right, now I have to tell you, that was the Donald Trump we were in the room with. That is a totally different persona. The patience, the interaction, the questioning, the concern. We were all shocked. It was our first time to be around him. We were all shocked at how patient he was. He was not in a hurry. He engaged in conversation. He picked up on people's names. When I would call Logan, he heard that. He started using Logan's name. He was using people's names as he would hear them being used, and he would remember them, pick them up. And he was patient and had just very conversational, like he was, that woman, he was talking to her like that they were the only two in the room. And that's what he did with us that night. There was only about 5 of us in that room that night. That's the Donald Trump that I wish people could see more of.
Yeah, I remember watching Donald Trump in the past, and I was always very personally offended by the philandering and all this kind of stuff. You always kind of respected him as a businessman because he does have clear skills, even though people tried to make it out he sucked at it. He didn't. He knows what he's doing. I always respected that. But when he became president is when you start to find out this guy's actually a pretty quality individual in many, many ways. Far more. I will tell you this. I've known a lot of politicians in Washington, D.C., in Congress and elsewhere. And I'm going to tell you this. Very few of them, very few, come anywhere close to the kind of personal integrity and character and the way that they treat other people than Donald Trump. And it's one of the as you know now, it's one of the untold stories about Donald Trump. People think because he is very brash in his political efforts and his public media efforts, and there's a place for that, frankly, and it's definitely much needed, but it's not a flailing about. It's very intentional and purposeful, thought through. I mean, he actually considers what style of response that he needs to have. And he does it for effect and for a specific purpose to gather a specific outcome if he can. And he's learned how to do it very well. I don't think there are any Republicans that are going to be able to communicate in the media anywhere near what Donald Trump does. I mean, I think that there have been times that J.D. Vance has shown a pretty good skill at that. Ron DeSantis has. I think Jim Jordan's pretty good. There are some folks who are really good with the media, but there are very, very few that have intent and purpose that is founded in something real and useful, and then be able to get that persona out in public and actually have positive, or, the positive outcome that is desired. He's capable of that. We talk about all these great communicators. People talk about Obama being a great communicator and Clinton being a great communicator. In my lifetime, only Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump have been truly, truly effective communicators who both got things done that needed to get done and knew how to communicate that message to others when they would. I think Ronald Reagan's a little bit better, but I think Donald Trump is a very close second.
Here's a great clip. Another guy I like to watch is Senator John Kennedy out of Louisiana. He is hilarious to watch. Here he is at it again.
I'm proud to serve on this committee. I watched this committee last year. We passed 11 out of 12 minibuses. Sent them to, and we all choked down some stuff you wouldn't believe. And we sent them to Senator Schumer, my friend. He refused to bring the bills to the floor of the Senate. Now, that's when he was in the majority. You really think he's going to allow us to vote on a budget when the politics have changed and his politics? If you do, you're Willie Nelson high. You're smoking some of the best dope God ever put breath in. What appropriations process? All we've got left are CRs and rescission packages.
Well, there you go. He's funny, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He is one of the best communicators, but he's absolutely right about it. And I mean, the only thing the Republicans are going to get done on the spending side is anything they do through these processes that bypass cloture. That's it. And he knows it too. So, and that's why they should have been very much more aggressive than they have been so far. And why I hope Trump will be very, very aggressive on the rescission packages. It could really help us. By the way, I'm looking at the results down in Argentina. Javier Milei has slashed government. Like when he had the chainsaw out there, he's really done that in government. He has a lot more authority the way that their government is structured. You have to get all these cuts through Congress. Or almost all of them. But they've got 5.8% growth. They're growing at a faster pace than China down there. And as I said in social media today, you know, Javier Milei didn't engineer this economic outcome. He facilitated it. It's the standard facts of economics that engineered it because they're immutable facts. And he understood what those are and acted upon it. I just wish Congress would do the same thing when they have a chance like they do now.
Here is Chip Roy, and I want you guys to pay attention to what he's about to say. Because there's some yelling going on. He says, prancing around, dancing around, running around, whatever he says, acting like you are a libertarian. In my book, Marxianity, that came out in 2018, I warned about all these guys running around claiming to be libertarians, but they're not. When you look at them, what they really are is communitarians, merging big government and big business together. What's called communitarianism, or the third way, which was used, by the way, according to Don Eberle, who was in the Bush White House, that George W. Bush was doing third way communitarianism, just like Bill Clinton did, just like Tony Blair did. And I warned in that book, Marxianity, there are a lot of groups running around, so-called conservative groups. They're posing as libertarian groups. They're not libertarian groups. That's camouflage. So you're going, oh, they're libertarian. They're for small government. They must be one of the good guys. No, they're not libertarians. They're communitarians. They want big government and big business to merge together. And I think Chip Roy is one of the few guys that's figured it out. Watch this.
You know, Mr. Nowrester, I assume that when you say you'd like a future with more Americans, that includes Jocelyn Ungare. Do you know Jocelyn Ungare? Have you talked to her mother, Alexis?
I know her. She was murdered by an illegal immigrant in Houston.
People who were released into this country with a notice to appear in court did not appear and then violently killed a young woman and is now dead. And her mother lost her. And she's one of dozens, hundreds, thousands of examples of Americans who are dead because of policies that were advocated for by the Biden administration and people parading around as libertarians. Ms. Vaughn.
Parading around as libertarians? What does that mean?
It means exactly what it means, Mr. Nowrester. It's my time, not yours.
That's a personal affront.
It is my time, not yours. I don't have any time to listen to libertarian claptrap.
I know you don't have any time to listen.
That is killing Americans, because that's what you're doing, and you're hiding behind
killing
a brand
Americans?
that is resulting in the death of Americans.
That's a heck of a thing to say to somebody, sir. That is totally false, and I take exception to that.
It's true, and everybody in America knows it.
I have not killed anybody, sir, and that is really exceptional.
Ms. Vaughn, when you go talk to Alexa Nungray and talk about her daughter no longer being with us.
Beneath you as an individual to say that to somebody,
Ms.
sir.
Vaughn,
there you go. Have you seen that today?
I didn't see that. I'm going to guess that that's a Cato Institute guy.
It is.
And let me just say this. As someone who has used and proudly has used the moniker libertarian as it relates to myself, I mean, I have steeped myself in Friedman, von Hayek and von Mises, and I think that this is an absolute fundamental way of doing business in government is to reduce the government footprint and increase the private footprint. Cato Institute, although there are some people there that put out some decent policy things. Cato Institute is lost. It is, and they do have some blood on their hands for the way that they handled the immigration issue. Like they even violate what bona fide libertarians like Milton Friedman have talked about. They try to quote Milton Friedman, who says, "Listen, we don't need to have any immigration rules." But the problem is, and we did have that prior to the early 20th century, but the reason it doesn't work anymore, as he said, is because of the welfare state. They don't want to attack the welfare state. They want to allow people to come here freely and harmlessly without any obstruction. They are as bad, Cato is as bad as radical Democrats, leftists, who have different motivations, but they want the same outcomes. They want a wide open border, and the only result of that in this present environment is absolute destruction. It's a destruction of our budget nationally because of all the Medicaid program has doubled in recent years. And it's all because illegals are obtaining it, and they don't want reforms to keep them out of it. They don't want reforms to keep them out of other welfare programs. They want them to come freely in and allow these politicians to do it. I'm with Chip Roy on this thing. They do have blood on their hands because they have been pushing a policy that is not good for this country and that ignores basic economic principles. And by the way, economics is not the study of how we spend money. I mean, that's part of it, but that's not what economics is. Economics, the definition of economics is the study, it's a social science that is the study of how humans deal with scarce resources. That's what economics is. They can call themselves an organization that does economic policy. If they don't understand what immigration policy is and why what Chip Roy said is important, they're not doing economic policy. They can talk about all the stuff that they want to, and some of it may be okay, but they lose it because they do not fundamentally do economics. And it is a shame what Cato Institute has done related to immigration policy. They should be ashamed for the work that they've done. There are other organizations that are libertarian and bent, and they talk, and I have my concerns with them. But the two areas of libertarianism that have failed this country is the open immigration movement that Cato is leading, and then the pro-LGBT aspect of the Libertarian Party that the Libertarian Party itself is pressing, and other organizations. And those are harmful for this country. As I've said many times, the Libertarian Party, the Big L Libertarian Party, says that they're for freedom, and I'm sure there are good people there, but that care about limited government or whatever, and they'll say they do. But the way that they operate, and Cato falls in this camp, is their mission statement is, if drugs and prostitution were legal, we'd all be free. That's literally pretty much what their whole philosophy ends up being. And what I argue is, whatever arguments you make on the drug and the prostitution end of things, if those things were all entirely illegal and everything else was limited government and freedom for individuals, then we'd be doing fantastic. They always focus on all the wrong things, and in the case of immigration, they're making things much worse in this country because their policies are corrupt and bereft of rationality, and definitely bereft of economic principle.
Well said. Here is a tweet by the president. It's finally happened. The Democrats have crossed the line. Zoran Mamdani, 100% communist lunatic, has just won the Democrat primary and is on his way to becoming mayor. We've had radical lefties before, but this is going a little ridiculous. This is getting a little ridiculous. He looks terrible. His voice is grating. He's not very smart. He's got AOC plus 3 dummies all backing him, and even our great Palestinian senator, crying Chuck Schumer, is groveling over him. Yes, this is a big moment in the history of our country. Yeah, we warned about this guy last night.
Oh, listen, you're going to get exactly what you asked for in New York City. You're just about to get it. Let me say this. Mamdani is not any different than any Democrat on the national stage right now. It doesn't matter if it's Chuck Schumer, Bernie Sanders, Andrew Cuomo, anybody. He is the logical conclusion of what the Democrat Party stands for right now. They just don't want to admit it. They do it in other means. This guy's been bold enough to say we want to have the city take over the grocery stores, right? But that's what Democrats are trying to do in a more slow fashion in the federal government right now. Hakeem Jeffries couldn't even speak against this guy when asked about him. He went on to talking about how Donald Trump is orange man bad, and we're about to have a recession, and he's driving the economy into the ground. None of which is true, but that's what they're saying. In other words, he's with Mamdani. He's with him. All Democrats on the national stage are with this guy, and most Democrats in state legislatures. If you want to see what the Democrat Party is trying to make happen in this country, just watch what Mamdani does. And I'm going to tell you, sadly, New York City is going to suffer greatly. Mm-hmm. They are going to really suffer. They've been in a place similar to this in the past.
And Eric Adams is running as
Giuliani being on the scene.
Eric Adams is running as a Republican in this one, right?
I can't remember if he's running independent or Republican. I hope he would win. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Eric Adams. I think he's got his problems too. But he is one of the few guys that's breaking mostly away from this. But still, he's kind of part of that crowd as well too. He'd definitely be a better choice for New Yorkers than this guy. And we'll see what happens. It's going to be hard for Eric Adams to win because he's got so many Democrats out against him. And in that town, it's hard to overcome.
President Trump, it's a long post. But the bottom line is President Trump is saying this whole prosecution of Benjamin Netanyahu over cigars is just stupid. It's got to stop. He's a warrior. This has been going on since 2020. It's unheard of. This is the first time a sitting Israeli prime minister has ever been on trial. Politically motivated case concerning cigars, a Bugs Bunny doll, and numerous other unfair charges in order to do him great harm. Such a witch hunt for a man who's given so much is unthinkable to me. He deserves much better than this, and so does the state of Israel. Bibi Netanyahu's trial should be canceled immediately. That's in all caps. Or a pardon given to a great hero who has done so much for the state. Perhaps there is no one that I know who could have worked in better harmony with the President of the United States, me, than Bibi Netanyahu.
Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Me in all caps. It was the United States of America that saved Israel, and now it's going to be the United States of America that saves Bibi Netanyahu. This travesty of justice cannot be allowed. That's interesting because the question is, where will some of these court officials, other people sit up and say, wait a minute, this is coming from the guy that keeps giving us interceptors, and we're going to need him next time, and again, probably in the next 3.5 years. Do we really want to go against him? If he says we should be done with this, we should be done with this. This will be interesting because obviously right now President Trump carries a ton of credibility in Israel after he stepped in to help them. So I asked one of our reporters on the ground over there, Jimmy DeYoung, before he passed away, what this was all about. He said, I think some cigars. I think a gift of cigars and other stupid stuff.
There are gifts, and I don't know what their actual rules are now in Congress, and I worked on Capitol Hill for many years. It's very strict gift rules, right? I don't know what their actual gift rules are, but honestly, if you can sway a politician with cigars, then you can sway me with cigars. I love cigars, but I think it's absolutely. Probably way overboard. I don't sit around and say that politicians. I rarely say when any politician that I don't find corrupt. I don't put that on too many politicians. I've known a lot of them, and I don't know all the details of the situation with Netanyahu. But my guess is that it is entirely political.
10 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, and so anyway, that's what's happening. I hope it goes away very quickly. I really do.
I do too. And of course, Secretary Kennedy is saying he is pulling money from Gavi. Good for him. He said business as usual is over. Good for him. Jim Paff tonight, theconservativecaucus.org, ours, worldviewtube.com. Take care. Tonight on the Worldview Report, in a stunning turn of events, New York City appears poised to elect its first Muslim mayor. And he's also a self-described socialist. What could possibly go wrong? The U.S. Department of Homeland Security reports the arrest of 11 Iranian nationals, including some who are illegally present in the United States. Pope Leo shows his true colors with recent appointments to a key Vatican board. Animal testing, thought to have been eliminated under the Trump administration, sneaks back into NIH practices. And a bitter feud among President Trump's MAGA supporters breaks out in living color between some of its most public faces. Is this the beginning of a civil war within the Republican Party? All these stories and more as the Worldview Report begins right now.
This is Worldview Report with host Brandon House. Whether it is news from the nation's capital or your state capital, from the classroom to the boardroom, from national security to national and local news that impacts you and your family, Worldview Report is your trusted source for vital and uncensored news. And now, here is Brandon House.
Good evening and welcome to the Worldview Report. I'm Brandon House. Leading off tonight, a Muslim and self-described socialist has won New York City's Democratic mayoral primary. Zohran Mamdani, he's 33 years old and he's a state lawmaker. He ran a campaign that was laser focused on the high cost of living. He came out of nowhere with well-funded, slickly produced social media videos setting out a vision for free buses, free childcare, new apartments, and a higher minimum wage, all paid for by new taxes on the so-called wealthy. Mr. Mamdani, who entered the campaign as a virtual unknown, was ahead of Andrew Cuomo, 43.5% to 36.4%, with 95% of ballot scanners reporting, and that's according to the city's elections board. He declared victory as he addressed his supporters, saying, quote, "Today, with the vision of the city that every New Yorker can afford, we have won," end quote. He promised to reject President Donald Trump's policies and to, quote, "govern our city as a model for the Democratic Party," end quote. If elected, when voters head to the polls in November, he would be the city's first Muslim mayor. Well, I don't know about you, but there has to be more to this story than we're being told. Who is backing this guy? What is their plan for him? Because he's a shoo-in to be elected in the general election because a Republican has not been elected to run America's largest city in decades. So